And then I will let people in. If anyone joins us, that's great. If they don't, we're still going to post it to the platform anyway. Oh, we do have some people. Good luck. But we'll post it to the...
I also did put the link on my story too. So then people just know that, hey, we're switching to this platform.
Yep, I did too. Perfect. Thank you.
Of course.
So feel free to get started whenever.
Okay. All right, guys. So because of some last minute technical difficulties with IG, here we are on Zoom. If y'all are not familiar with me, I am Meg. I am half of the Planners and Wine podcast. I have been helping Archer and Olive for the past about month or so with their Black History Month celebration. And I am so happy to be sitting here with a beautiful Annette. She is a super fancy attorney, and she's going to talk to us about all things social media, trademarking, privacy, all those good things. So Annette, so happy to have you here. Why don't you tell the people a little about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Annette Kabia. I'm a business and trademark attorney here in the US, and I essentially help entrepreneurs, small business owners, creatives create businesses as well as protect their content. So everything you guys do, please, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to bring them up during this chat, because I want to make sure that you get all the information you need to help you navigate this world. Social media is so murky when it comes to the legal side of it. So please ask everything.
Yes. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it then. So what are some of the first things that someone starting a business with an online presence should do?
So you want to make sure that your business is actually a separate entity from you as an individual. And this essentially, this means that you're creating an LLC or a corporation, just depending on what state, like the rules in your state. You also do have an option of a sole proprietorship, which I will tell you, please do not do, because that doesn't create all the protections that an LLC or a corporation would give you. And essentially, this means that the business is one side, like this is the business over here, and you are an individual over here. So if there's any type of legal issue that comes up or any type of financial or tax issue, it goes towards the business and it never touches your personal assets or you as an individual, provided that you keep them two separate. Now, if you have your business and you use it as if it's like your personal account, that's a problem. You don't want to do that. But the first thing is definitely making sure that your business has protection outside of you. And that's like the first step. So whether you're creating an LLC or a corporation, make sure you do that. Another thing that is big, especially with having an online presence, you want to make sure that your website has the proper policies in place. So GDPR is a global protection rights that's out there. So I think Europe is actually the one that kind of like implemented this about a year or two ago, probably right when COVID hit. And then it hit the US pretty bad because we didn't have those kind of protections on our websites. So anyone that was shopping on there, any kind of information that someone may say, someone buys a planner from you and they go online, they put in their card information or their email information. You don't have the proper things in your website or your guidelines that say that, hey, this is going to be protected. You're not selling this information and meets all their requirements. You can get hit with a very hefty fine, and you do not want to do that. Like right when this hit, I think Walmart was one of the big ones that got hit with like $1 million fines. Amazon, another one, they didn't have these rules and regulations on their site that were compliant. So make sure you are having proper policies on there that are GDPR compliant, that you have a return policy, privacy policy, and talk about like the refund policy, whatever that is, whether you give refunds or don't give refunds. If you have digital products, you should not be giving out refunds because of the nature of your product. So make sure that you're just saying that on the website, because you don't want people coming back later and they're like, oh, well, I need a refund because this, that, and third. It doesn't say this on your website. Knit all of that in a bud on the front end.
Right.
And hey, this is the policy, so everyone knows what's up.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
Also, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And this is
it doesn't, let me know. It's a lot. I'm telling you, like little things like that, like little things that you can do to tweak your website or to tweak your online presence, help you protect your business, help you protect yourself as an individual, and helps your business grow as well. Because then say you do have a brand partnership with a larger brand, then they know that, okay, they're about their business. They've taken the necessary steps to protect themselves. And I know that I can work with them because I know that I'm working with someone who's professional, who's familiar with the industry and knows what they're doing. So be
Right.
mindful.
That's true.
If you're thinking like long-term growth, that's something that you
Yeah.
want to be mindful of.
Yeah, that's really true. And I think that, I mean, just having that more professional look to a brand will kind of force a brand to maybe take you a little bit more seriously also. And they don't think that they're just going to be able to play you or get over on you.
That is a big
Because,
one.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So how about for people who are starting out as like content creators? Like, how can some of these same things apply to just kind of like, you're not selling a physical product, but you're a content creator. Your product is basically your brand. Like, how can some of these same laws and rules kind of apply to a content creator?
So when we're talking creating content, then we're talking copyright law, primarily copyright law. So if you are creating content, whether it be social media ads, or you're doing like your social media manager, you create these platforms for people where this is your template or whatever it may be. So you create templates and you sell them. There are a number of different sites that actually have like these Canva templates. Say you do that. You can protect that with copyright law. One, you need to have a notice that actually says that, hey, this is my content that I own. When you buy it from me, I'm giving you the right to use it as such. Like there's a limited right that comes along with purchase. Now, that does not allow them to use it for other people if they've only purchased it once. But if you purchase multiple licenses, which is like the right to use, then you can use it for multiple accounts. Say you are a social media manager. So if you're a social media manager and you're buying from a content creator and they have templates for a website, or they have templates for social media posts, and you're buying that from that, one purchase means that you can use it for one page.
Right.
So if you're a social media manager and you're doing it for multiple pages, then they need to buy multiple licenses. Right. So they should be purchasing more than one, unless you have an option that allows for multiple purchases at once for multiple licenses.
Okay.
Now, so having that notice saying that, hey, I created this, I own the copyright, you have a limited right to use this. You are not allowed to use this for multiple accounts. You are not allowed to resell this as your own. You're not allowed to use this on a different account that I've not given you authorization for. Like just having that standard language in there. And then also depending on what your content is, I would suggest actually filing for a federal copyright protection for it.
Gotcha.
And that's going through the Copyright Office. And each country kind of has their own version of this, but essentially it'll protect those kind of creative things that you're making, whether it's a design, whether it's artwork, whether it's an ebook, whether it's a planner and you have a specific design inside that's not just like the lines and the dated like calendar in a sense. So you've actually taken time to create something that has a bit of originality to it. Those things you can file for copyright protection for. And what that says is that no one is allowed to make that same thing or something that's significantly similar to yours, and you have the right to legally pursue them.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
is, a big myth. I hear this all the time, and I'm just like, please stop saying this. People hear of this rule where it's like, well, it's not a rule, but they hear of this thing where it's like, you mail it to yourself and you're safe because
I have heard that. Yeah, not sure.
That is not real. That is not real at all. Please do not do that because it will not help you. Yeah. So what happens is that once you create something, you are the author, the creator of this, you're the owner of it. You do essentially have a copyright, right? You are the owner, you're the creator. You have an initial copyright on it. But if you ever want to stop other people from using it, or you ever want to pursue someone legally, you need to have a federal copyright, which is registered with the Copyright Office.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm glad you brought that up too. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I saw a situation. There was a situation with the illustrator online, and she would she had her illustrations and they were like really cute, like lettering designs and stuff. And a big fast fashion company literally took her exact design and put it on t-shirts and sweatshirts and all of these type of things. And it was like a big thing because she hadn't formally trademarked it, but I think, or copyrighted it. But once she got it copyrighted, was it able to, could it still be enforced like later, even though it wasn't copyrighted when they took it, but she got it copyrighted, so that at that point it could be enforced?
Yeah, so in that situation, that's exactly what happened. Like they used her creative content and misused it because they obviously didn't have the right to use it on something else, and they made a lot of money from it. So what happens is, even though she didn't have a federal, or whoever it is didn't have a federal copyright at the time, they could have filed to get the federal copyright, which takes right now in the US, it takes about 3 months. Once you get that registered, from the time it's registered until whenever this lawsuit is instituted or whenever they stop using it, you're able to get the money for that, damages towards that. Now, if say they started using it shortly after she just created it, or the first 3 months of her creating it, then what happens is that she actually is allowed a lot more leverage in time as to when she can actually get the damages. So if it's within the first 3 months of when she creates it and they start using it then without her permission or didn't pay for license, then she can actually like backdate it and get damages from then until now.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So please protect your content, because people are out here making a lot of money off of your genius and your creativity, and you are not getting anything from it.
Absolutely. Just a reminder, can everybody mute their microphones just so we can make sure we can hear Annette? We'll have a time later on where people can ask questions. Thanks, guys. Okay, sorry about that, Annette. So I have a question also. What is the difference between a trademark and a copyright?
Okay, this is a common question. So copyright and trademark just protect different things. So the trademark is for the outwardly facing branding. So we're talking about significant colors or a color scheme that you may be using. Say if your logo design has a certain colors within it, you can protect it with the colors. You can protect a logo, phrase, slogan, business name. If you have like a signature line of whatever products, whatever it may be, you can protect that as well. So trademark is really for those identifiable, those are source identifiers. That's essentially what it is, a source identifier. Trademark is meant to protect those things that if you see it out in the world, you automatically think of a brand. When you see that check mark, the swoosh, you automatically think Nike.
Right.
That's what it's for. You see just do it, you're thinking Nike. So those are trademarks. Now, copyright is more for the internal type of creative assets. So ebooks, lyrics, songs, music, even choreography can be get a copyright depending on the actual dance itself. Any kind of artistry can also get a copyright. So it just depends on what exactly you're looking to protect. But there are also some things that can be protected as both. If your logo design is distinctive enough, it can also qualify for copyright protection because it is a design, it's a drawing, but it also can represent the company and its branding and can be a trademark as well.
Okay, good to know. Because I feel like I've heard those used kind of interchangeably, but I was assuming that they probably weren't exactly the same, but they are very similar. Like you said, it just applies to the different things that you're protecting.
Most likely within every business, there are some ways that you can get things trademarked as well as protected with copyright. It just depends on how you're using it and what you actually want to protect.
Gotcha. So what are the first steps for getting a trademark or to get something that you've created copyrighted?
Okay, so let's go over copyright first, because copyright is a shorter process. So with copyright, it has to be an original creation that is in a fixed format. So if you are writing something down as like a note in your iPhone, or you drafted a version of a book, you have a manuscript, or you have recorded a song or recorded a dance performance, because that's in a fixed format and assuming that the actual creation was original, you can now get started with the copyright process. So once you have this original content that's been fixed in some kind of format, you can go ahead, or the attorney will do what's called a copyright search. So we'll search through what's already protected out there just to make sure that there's nothing that stands out that would be able to like stop you or be in the way of you actually doing that. And of course, rightfully so, this has to be something that you actually own and you created.
Yes.
So now once that search has been done, then we can go forward with the actual application. Now the application itself goes through various steps of documentation, where it's like, who's the owner, who created what exactly are we protecting? Is there someone that you may have taken part in the creation aspect, and either if you pay them or not, like what is their involvement? That also has to be in there. If you paid someone to create a logo, but you have now own the logo, then that also has to be included in there. And they're going to ask for what type of documentation was used in the process of this. And then going through the other steps, which essentially are asking like, okay, Once we go through this, is this original? Are you like stating you're verifying that, hey, I'm the owner of this? And then just contact information after that. Once that's submitted, you also have to submit a copy of whatever the work is. And if it's like a book or an ebook, like a digital like copy is also fine as well. But if you have to send in a physical copy, then you have to mail that in. Once that is submitted to them, they go ahead and review it. If there's no issues, then you're just waiting to get your copyright registration certificate. If there's an issue, they'll shoot you an email for whatever contact information you listed. And then from there, essentially try to resolve that issue before it can be registered.
Gotcha. And I actually have a question before we get into how to get a trademark. So what if, like, say in that situation with the influencer where that brand had took her design and started putting it on t-shirts and all that without her permission? What if when she went to file her copyright, they had already started the process of copyrighting her product, basically?
So that would have to be a lawsuit.
Okay.
Yeah. and I actually was in a similar situation with a client, but it was for a trademark situation. But essentially, if someone goes and protects something that they're not in the right position to actually protect it, whether they're not the owner or they didn't create it first or whatever it may be, that becomes a lawsuit. Gotcha. So yeah, it gets a bit difficult because then at that point you have to actually prove that you were the original creator and you created it before they created it. Like, I'm not sure if either any of you guys have like seen when a lot of these musical artists come out with a new song, and then there's a bunch of people that come out and they're like, oh, well, that was my song. Oh, you copied from me. Da, da, da. I actually think Nicki Minaj might have had an issue, or Cardi B had an issue with this like last year, where like 10 people came out and they were like, well, this is from my song. Da, 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 da. And then it goes back to, okay, who created it first? Where are the first copies, the audio copies? Where were the lyrics written down? Who did the beat or whatever it may be? Did this person who created it actually send it to all of you guys, or who actually like created the master first? So it doesn't always come down to who filed and got the registration first, because when it comes to copyright, that person that filed may not actually be the rightful person.
Absolutely.
So they may not actually be the owner. And you have to be original in what you're actually going forth in copywriting. If you didn't originally create it and someone else has something that's substantially similar, they can actually fight you, and then you can lose protection of the copyright law.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So with trademarking, so what are the first steps on how somebody will go through with trademarking?
So with trademarking, one thing that you want to make sure of before you even start the process is that you want to make sure that what you are looking to protect is actually unique and distinctive in itself.
Gotcha.
You can't protect something that is a generic term or that is a regular color that everyone is using. Like, some people actually have protected colors, like T-Mobile has done that magenta color that they now use.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Exactly. And Tiffany has done the blue box. That color blue, they've also protected. So you can't just do a generic color that everyone is using, like regular yellow, anything like that. But you have to make sure that whatever you're protecting is distinctive and that it stands out. So nothing generic, nothing descriptive. Like if you're doing like a business name or slogan, it can't be descriptive of the services or products that you're actually selling or providing under this name. So make sure that it's distinctive in itself. And of course, if you don't know if it is or if it isn't, I offer consultations, and like we can actually like talk about it before even move forward, because I'm not going to say, yeah, you can move forward with this if it's like, hey, this actually describes what you're doing. So you're going to run into issues before even like us looking at this for real. So make sure it's actually something that is eligible for protection. Once that is done, then you do a comprehensive search. Now, what I essentially do is I do a comprehensive search that goes through anything that's already registered, any pending applications, anything that has lost protection of the trademark law, anything with the web presence or social media. And this will let you know what is out there. So if someone has already protected this and they started way before you, okay, that's not something you want to pursue because they have a greater right to it than you do. Now, in a situation where they have it protected, but you've been using it way longer before them, you might still have a chance to fight them. That was the situation I was saying that I've had before with the client.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, so that was a lot of back and forth and actually ended up being a lawsuit. But you want to make sure that like no one out there has it protected. You want to make sure that if someone out there that has something similar to yours started after you, just to make sure that there's no issues that's going to come up in the process as you're pursuing a trademark. So once that is done and that's all evaluated and the risk is evaluated and everything, then you move forward with actually doing the application. Excuse me. Now with the application, you want to make sure that you are actually saying within the application that, hey, I want to register this mark or trademark and use it in connection with these services or products. All applications have to say that. You cannot just register a certain logo or a word mark just because you want to stop anyone else from using it. I know a lot of people do that or want that, but you're not able to do that. You have to actually use it with something. So you put that forth in your application and then you wait. Right now, before it was a 3-month waiting period, but right now it's actually 8 months. We're looking at 8 to 9 months before it actually gets assigned and looked at. So with that being said, once it does get assigned and it's reviewed, then we know, okay, it'll either get approved to go to the next stage, or it'll essentially be like, hey, there's an issue that we need you guys to correct. And now there's something that can be a quick fix, and there's some that actually require a legal brief. So it just depends on what actually goes on, because it might be a more serious issue. But provided they agree with everything, you're able to move forward to the next stage, which is called publication. Now with publication, they put it on their internal site for 30 days and they say, hey, this applicant wants to register this mark and they want to use it in association with these services and goods. Now, once that's done and no one comes forward and says, hey, I have a problem with this, if no one does that, then you are good to go and you're just waiting for them to mail out your registration certificate. So and right now it takes about 12 months at a minimum with no issues.
Oh my gosh, why is it so long?
So this is the thing. When COVID hit, like early 2020, when it really hit the US, everyone started like starting businesses and filing for trademarks. And this was a really big push on social media. Like a lot of people became more aware of it. So a lot more people were filing these applications. So the huge uptick in applications over the past 2 years has backlogged the US Patent and Trademark Office. And now we're like trying to figure out ways to like shorten that time frame, but it's still an 8-9 month wait right now.
Wow.
Like I have applications that we filed in July of last year that have not been looked at yet.
Wow. Okay. So basically start now if you're looking to get something trademarked.
Exactly. If you want to protect your mark this year, start now. Start now. The earlier, the better, because one, someone else may beat you to the punch and may actually start the process. But two, the waiting period is not going to get short anytime soon.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, question. Should someone who wants to be a content creator, should they start or get an LLC like immediately? Or is that something maybe they should they wait until they kind of, build up their brand or build up their following, or kind of wait till they're 100% sure they want to take it seriously? Or is that something that most content creators should just go ahead and do right away if they're thinking about taking it seriously?
It depends on your intention.
Okay.
If you are like, hey, this is my business, I want this to actually create an income for me, I want this to be sustainable, I want it to grow, you have like a 2-year, 5-year plan for this business, get an LLC because you're invested in the growth of that business. But if you're like, it's a hobby, you're not really sure if you really are in it for real, then wait a little bit. And the only reason why, and this is the real answer, the only reason why I say wait a little bit is because some states will charge you, like when you create the LLC, you're looking at paying, some states are as little as $70 and some are as much as $200. Some states make you pay additional fees for publication, which is a 6-week period. That, like, if you live in New York, it's expensive. If you live in New York and you live in the city, it's expensive because they're one of the states that have this publication period that this 6-week period that could cost you thousands of dollars just to publish it. But if you're still like trying to figure out whether this is for you or not, test it out first, but have a short time frame in which you're going to test it out. And once you make that decision that, hey, I'm serious about this, I want to pursue it, get the LLC, because besides the financial benefits of having like tax deductions of having a business, you also have a lot of legal protection in having this entity that is separate from yourself.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. Thank you. My next question is, what is the best way for, I mean, pretty much just anybody, not just content creators, to stay safe online? Like, we see so many situations where, people have been getting doxxed and, their personal information is put out there. I know, like, when you file trademarks or, file for copyright, sometimes your like physical address has to be attached to those type of things. So what is the best way for people to stay safe online?
Okay, this is the cheapest tip ever. And I tell this to my clients, especially if they're a sole proprietor or they don't have like an LLC yet or like a business entity yet, get a business address. Even if you're not like, you don't have an LLC form, that's perfectly fine, but get a separate address. They have these like digital mailboxes or these virtual office addresses that you can pay like $20 a month, like, or less. Yeah, it just depends on your location. They're not paying me for this, but iPostal One, I think is one that you can get as low as $10 a month. Something like that will give you an address and a location that you want. Also will protect you as an individual. So your home address is not out there, because you definitely want to protect that.
Right.
And whenever you do actually create the LLC, if you get to that point, you have your address already, business address that you can use for that. Now, you did mention trademarks actually having to put it out there. And yes, that is a requirement now, that on all applications, you cannot put a PO box. You have to have an actual mailing address. So if someone doesn't have a business address and I'm working with them, I let them know, hey, do not use your home address, because that's going to be out there forever. Get one of these like virtual offices or digital like mailboxes where you're paying under $20. And if it's actually like a business address and you want like the mail forwarding options, these other options go with it, maybe you're paying up to $50 a month, but it's worth it to protect your address, your business as a whole, because you're vulnerable to a lot of things out there. A lot of people can look you up. It's very public. And then also like there's scammers out there, especially when it comes to the trademarks. This is one thing that I see often with a lot of my clients is like, if you have an address that's out there, they will send you scams and they'll tell you, oh, you have to pay. They'll have a name that's similar to the US Patent and Trademark Office. They're like, you have to pay $3,000 for your trademark application. And I let them know, hey, once this is paid, you do not have to pay anything else. If you ever receive notice like this in the mail, call me. Because if it's actually from USPTO, they will reach out to your attorney. They will not mail you anything. And it's all via email until the actual trademark certificate comes out. So if anyone is mailing you that and you're going through the trademark process, do not just pay them, because you will not be able to get that money back. They're asking for a lot of money. Like I've seen some that are up to $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And some people will pay it because they're scared and they don't know.
But
it's a scam. I promise you. Please do not. If that ever happens to any of you guys, do not pay that. Call someone, reach out to someone. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to reach out to me. I will let you know, hey, that's a scam. Do not pay them. But yeah, definitely protect your personal address.
That's amazing. I was just about to ask, like, any more advice that you have for like content creators and small business owners who are maybe just getting started out, or who have been doing it for a while and maybe they just didn't know that all this information was available to them and that it was something that they needed to be thinking about for the business. Like, what advice would you give to them?
A number of them. A number of things. One, use contracts. Some people will have you create stuff for them, or you're working and they haven't paid you. Use a contract, because if they haven't paid or if they haven't held up their end of the contract, or you've sent them the stuff and you're waiting to hear back, whatever it may be, you can always enforce a contract. So that's one. Always have that in place. Make sure that you are protecting yourself as an individual, as a business entity. Two, these social media sites, if you're doing like content creation on these social media sites, they have ways of you reporting people who are using things without your permission. If you're the original creator, Instagram has a trademark and a copyright infringement policy where you're able to report the individual like posts, whatever it may be. And Facebook also has that, because clearly they have the same owner. But they have things within their site that actually the app that allows you to report them. And same thing with the trademark issue as well. They have it within there and you let them know, hey, I own this trademark. You give them the registration number and you let them know, hey, this is what I'm reporting. And they're able to take it down. People will lose posts. They will lose their accounts off of doing this repeatedly. So make sure that you're actually out there doing that.
Right.
And then also make sure that you're protecting yourself. what you are doing, your creative process, the genius that you're putting into this, the work, the energy, the effort. Obviously, these people are coming to you because you are creating something that they cannot do. There is value in what you are doing. There's value in what you are creating. Make sure you protect that via copyrights or trademark if that's necessary. Like, make sure that you're protecting yourself, because at the end of the day, when you're dealing with other businesses or other individuals who are looking to grow their brand, they're only concerned with themselves. If they get a leg up over you, they're not worried whether you get paid. They're not worried whether they continue to use your stuff for other things. That's not their concern. You have to make sure that you're doing it. And just a general business tip, make sure that you are presenting yourself as a business. Like, if you have your working hours, or if you know someone personally, make sure that you're actually like doing things as a business. Don't just work with someone just because, oh yeah, we're friends, that's fine, letting a lot of things slide, or not having structure to how you are doing things. If you want to grow as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a creative content creator, like, you want to make sure that you are structuring your business the way you need to structure it, that you have the right proper protections, and you have a team in place. So if you're running into any situation, you can, hey, I have this situation, reach out to whoever it is that may be useful in that type of situation.
Right. That is great advice. And actually, Jen said in the chat that was a great tip, to not rush into getting an LLC if you're not sure that this will be a business for you just yet. Yeah, I totally agree. And if anybody has any comments or questions for Annette, feel free to leave them in the chat. But Annette, I would like to know, before we wrap up, just a little bit more about you and your background. Like, how did you get into this field of law?
Actually, it was an accident.
Okay.
I went into law school wanting to do criminal justice. I was like, I'm going to do criminal defense, because I did criminal justice in undergrad. I grew up watching SVU. I don't know if anyone else watched it. I binge watched that. So I grew up watching that, and I was just like, oh yeah, I would love this. So I went into law school wanting to do that. And someone said the same. So I went into law school wanting to do that. But once I did an internship in that area of law, I was like, oh, this is not for me. It was just too heavy emotionally. But I wanted to make sure that, like, I wanted to give back to people who look like me. I wanted to give back to entrepreneurs, people who didn't have all the resources, everything like that. Because before going to law school, I actually worked within the Juvenile Justice Commission. So I worked with a lot of young juveniles who were in the legal system. They were kind of already in there. But when they went back home, they didn't have resources to create things on their own or to get a job. So they kind of were forced into this path to commit crimes. So I was like, oh, I want to defend them. That's what I want to do. But in all honesty, I wanted to find a way out. So when I kind of fell into IP and I learned about it, I was like, oh my gosh, business ownership, like intellectual property. I'm a very creative person. So I love this like marriage of like the law and creativity. So I was like, oh, this is perfect for me. So I end up doing a lot of my resources go towards individuals, women, entrepreneurs, minorities that are starting businesses, that are interested in ownership. I really want people to be educated in this area, to know that, hey, what they're doing, what they're creating, they can create an income from it. They could be protected. They could license out their creativity and make money while they sleep. So that's how I fell into like IP, learning that criminal justice was not for me, and ended up finding out about it in school through an elective. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I feel like the best things you just kind of fall into and it just ends up working out. That's so amazing.
Exactly.
Let's see. Jen has another question. She said, any tips on finding a lawyer that specializes in content creation law, especially for those of us with small accounts and maybe smaller budgets?
So one thing I would say, if you're in the US, I know that a lot of states have this thing called volunteer lawyers for the arts. And that's a lot of times where you can go and you can have consultations with them, talk to them about what you're doing and what you're creating, and then kind of advise you accordingly. Of course, I'm not sure what the budget is for that, but I just know that they do offer some free services or like low cost services. In regards to finding an attorney in general in relation to this area, you may have to talk to a few different people just to understand what their cost is, the investment associated with their services. But you want to, if you're doing content creation, you want to look for someone who's familiar with business law, who's familiar with copyright and trademark, because you're creating this it's what you're creating is intellectual property.
Right.
So if you're creating this content, you want those someone who's familiar with those areas of law, and then also who's also familiar with contracts, because you may need some depending on what you're doing and what you're looking to expand to. That may not be essential, but at first, definitely someone who's knowledgeable in business and intellectual property.
Gotcha. And for anybody who may be like a bigger content creator who has like a large brand, do you think, is it necessary to have a lawyer and a manager, or do lawyers kind of do some of those management things? Like, how does that, or could you find like a manager who is also a lawyer? What do you think about that?
So it depends. It depends if your manager is a lawyer and handles that within their role, like literally they're going to be legally advising you. They're going to be drafting contracts. They're familiar with business and intellectual property. If they are familiar with those areas, like this is their area of specialty, and that is within their role as your manager, then yes, your manager attorney can handle that. But if your manager is someone who did not go to law school, who is not a licensed attorney, who does not specialize in those areas of law, then you want to make sure you have an attorney outside of your manager.
Gotcha.
Because this attorney will work with the manager and make sure that you are getting everything that you need, especially when you're doing larger projects. Or I have a client who's now working on an exhibit for a museum. So as they're looking to do that, we actually have to sit down and talk about, okay, so what are you doing? Like, this is what your new project is. Okay, these are some things that we need to be aware of. And then reviewing the contracts and making sure that they do what they need to do and they avoid as much legal risk as possible, but capitalize on them, like maximize the income that you can be making from this new venture that you're going into. So yeah, so even if you don't have like a regular attorney that you just reach out to or whatever, make sure that you do have someone who is your go-to. So when you are expanding to these new territories, or someone's looking to do a brand partnership with you, make sure you reach out to them, because you may want them to read over the contract to make sure that you're getting what you're supposed to be getting, and then that your content is still protected. Because many times you'll sign a contract and you'll actually be signing over your rights. You do not want to do that, because if you're over any ownership to somebody else, they need to pay you more money. Like they need to pay you more. So make sure you are getting your value out of whatever you're creating.
Gotcha. And so say if somebody wanted to hire you, for example, would you have to be in their state, or can somebody in California hire you even though you're in Maryland? How does that work?
No, actually, so you do not have to be in my state. One thing about intellectual property, which I love, is that it's federal. So I actually do have clients in California, Florida, Chicago, my home state, New York, New Jersey. Like I have clients back there. So that doesn't matter where your state is.
Awesome.
Now, when it does come to contracts, it does matter, because there's going to be state specific like rules that you want to incorporate into a contract. So be mindful of that. That is state by state. But when it comes to intellectual property, trademarks, and copyrights, that is federal. So any attorney in any state can help you with that.
Gotcha. This has been such an eye-opening conversation, Annette. Oh my God. Thank you so much for all your advice. Thank you to all our viewers and your questions. Where can people find you if they want to follow you and keep up with what you have going on?
Definitely. If you guys want to reach out to me and connect with me, you can follow me on Instagram. It's @according to attorney Kay. And actually in my link in my bio there, you'll have all my contact information. You can literally just click the button and it drops down the contact info to your phone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Annette. And thank you so much, guys, for watching. If anybody was not able to make it, no worries. This will be available on the Archer and Olive blog. We will have the link up in just a little bit. And thank you guys so much. Thank you again, Annette. This is awesome.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.